As the deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia becomes a flashpoint in the administration's new immigration policies, CNN has new reporting on another impact of Trump's strategy, major funding cuts, which have left many undocumented children to face their deportation proceedings alone. Here's Priscilla Alvarez with the Situation Room special report.
Tuvieron que cruzar la frontera de México con Estados Unidos, ¿verdad?
This story time starts at the U.S. southern border. It's a tale for children who crossed into the United States alone and are in government custody. Fulanito, a cartoon cat, is supposed to represent them. The lesson, almost impossible to imagine for a child, how to navigate the U.S. immigration system alone.
Un derecho muy importante que Fulanito tiene ahora que está aquí en los Estados Unidos es el derecho de ir a la Corte de Migración.
Evelyn Flores of the Amica Center for Immigrant Rights gives this presentation to kids in custody weekly. And she's not alone. Legal service providers serve a critical role for unaccompanied kids, whether preparing for court or getting ready for school. Now, those lessons are taking on added significance amid concerns that children will be stripped of the very legal services they need. This image that you share in your storytelling could be all a child has to get through their immigration proceedings.
Yes.
The termination of a federal contract for legal services has left organizations like Amica scrambling, and the thousands of children they and others serve potentially facing deportation proceedings alone. Without attorneys, advocates say, kids don't stand a chance.
The system is just too complicated for a child to succeed alone without an attorney. To ask a 12-year-old to do that without the support of an adult, much less one trained in the complicated world of immigration law, it's just not feasible. It can't happen.
A child's deportation proceedings start shortly after they cross into the United States, similar to an adult.
I was in a court last summer where a 3-year-old was in proceedings. He played with his toy car in the aisle of the courtroom until he was called, and then a young woman picked him up and brought him to the front of the courtroom. I knew that child knew something dramatic was about to happen. He started crying. He was inconsolable at that point.
Under U.S. law, immigrants don't have a right to counsel at the government's expense, not even children, leaving them to depend on volunteer lawyers or NGOs.
Federal support is everything. Without those monies, we would probably see more like 90% of these kids going through proceedings without counsel.
In March, the Trump administration cut off federally funded legal services for 26,000 unaccompanied children in the United States, prompting lawsuits. A federal judge has since ordered the administration to temporarily restore funding, but to date, that hasn't happened. The uncertainty has led to staff layoffs and disrupted legal services for kids. As the administration cracks down on immigration, experts argue that taking away attorneys will only hurt efforts to get migrant kids to court.
The dinosaur and the unicorn are huge, huge hits.
Organizations who work with migrant children often have to get creative to get the kids to open up. Children often color as they share why they fled their home countries and get acquainted with attorneys.
They get thrown off the walls.
Or they play with stress balls. One group in Michigan even has toy court sets for one-on-one legal screenings with kids.
We'll have toddlers running all over the place, and my staff is explaining to them using toys, crayons, chalkboards, what their rights are in the immigration system. And it's both something that's both very poignant, it's very joyful, but there's also a tremendous sense of gravity to it.
It's a nursery school where the lesson is how to fight your deportation proceedings.
That's exactly right.
Wow, Priscilla, really eye-opening, that reporting. So a judge's order mandated the funding be restored, but that hasn't happened. Is the administration just openly defying the court order here?
Temporarily restored. It was a moment of relief for these many organizations, 89 of them actually, who provide these services, but they haven't seen that money flow through again, which means that they are currently laying off staff. I have spoken with attorneys who are preparing and talking to counsel about withdrawing from cases ethically, cases of young children who they say are going to have to go through this process alone. A process, by the way, Pamela, that is stacked against them. The point of the Department of Homeland Security in these hearings, they are there to make the case that this child should be removed from the country. So what we are talking about here are children sitting at a bench alone, sometimes their feet can't even touch the ground, having to respond to DHS and an immigration judge. I will also note that over the course of this reporting, what we learned is that these children are also being put on expedited dockets. We've seen this before with families. I have never seen it before with children, unaccompanied children, which is to say that now their immigration cases are being sped through the system so that they have to be resolved in a matter of weeks. Sometimes these things take months or years. So if they don't have an attorney, they have to find all the evidence for their case. They have to know how to fill out the forms to at least stand a chance to defend against deportation. So this has been, for all these legal service providers, a really frightening time, and one that they have not seen since the TVPRA, that law passed on a bipartisan basis by Congress in 2008.
Wow, eye-opening. Thank you, Priscilla. All right, let's get some more reaction. Now we're joined by Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Dingell of Michigan. I want your reaction to Priscilla's piece here. How concerned are you by the prospect of thousands of migrant children navigating their deportation proceedings without legal representation now that this funding hasn't been restored yet, despite a judge's order?
Pam, I'm very worried. It's good to see you, but I remember in the previous Trump administration visiting a Christian foster adoption agency here in Michigan that was trying to help these children who had been separated from their parents. And the stories then were horrific. Now, why are these children here? The story I remember from his first term was a mother who had sent her children to live with their grandmother because she was beaten, being threatened. Gangs were raping her. She was trying to earn money to send here. And they got separated and they couldn't find anybody. These children, why are they here? So many of these children are escaping horrific situations. We need to try to help them. I just think that one of the fundamental principles of our Constitution is due process. This is Easter weekend. This is Good Friday. If this isn't a day that we can't think and reflect about how do we help other children when we see someone that is in crisis and needs help, don't we have a moral obligation to be helping them in some way, even if it's returning them to family in another country? They shouldn't be on their own, especially at age 3.
You talk about due process. That brings me to the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen was able to finally get a face-to-face meeting with him. The administration admitted that he was wrongly deported to El Salvador. Where do you think this goes from here?
I don't know where it goes. I'm glad that the senator was able to see him yesterday. There are some in the administration that are trying to play this, that like we care more about immigrants, still accusing him of being a member of a gang, which he has never. As a matter of fact, 4 years ago, they could not find proof. They said that he wasn't. I can tell you this, I've been at home. I did 3 town halls in a 24-hour period. One was in a very conservative part of my district that voted for Trump. One was with seniors and one was with young people in a high school. The question they all asked me at the very beginning is, what do you do when the president ignores the courts? How do we protect our Constitution? I had people of all kinds of different beliefs and principles asking me that question. We're going to fight hard. This was a Supreme Court. When is the last time anybody can remember the Supreme Court voting unanimously? This is a constitutional issue for this country.
Yeah, I mean, both sides are spinning the Supreme Court ruling as a win. You say we are going to fight. You said you heard from your constituents and even the conservative constituents, it sounds like, expressing that concern. So what are you going to do to fight being in the minority?
Well, I think that you see that the court, it's the people. I want to say this. I'm not afraid to speak up. I think that right now we have to worry about freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press. You all are under attack, and due process every single day. And I will not be silenced, and I will speak up, and I will work with my colleagues. But it is the collective people in this country. We all have to be engaged. And it is our collective voices that are standing up, not being silenced, not being afraid to say, this is not what our Constitution protects. It's the collective we that protects our Constitution.